What is up, guys, and welcome into another episode of the Ain't It Funky podcast. My guest today is Arya Goggin. Arya is the powerhouse drummer for genre-blending UK band Skindred, known for fusing metal, punk, reggae, and electronic elements into a sound that's entirely their own. Skindred has carved out a unique place in heavy music, and Arya's hard-hitting, groove-driven drumming is at the heart of it all. An honor to speak to a true rock music veteran. In this episode, we talked about how Arya keeps his hands in shape in between tours, how Skindred's tracking process has changed since the 90s. We also nerded out over Arya's current setup and why Arya prefers metal snares as opposed to wooden snares, imposter syndrome, and more. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you're listening. The video version is available on YouTube as well. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy. All right, Arya Goggin, welcome into the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's
Arya,
a pleasure.
Appreciate you taking the time, man. So Arya, where are you right now? Are you back home in Britain?
Yeah,
or?
I'm at home in London. I just live down the road from Wimbledon, so I'm keeping an eye on the tennis.
Nice. So how long do you have until you guys go back out on the road?
We just came back from a show in Spain at the weekend, so we've got the week off, and then we're out to Germany actually to play a festival called Toll Rock on Thursday, I think. So I've got a few days at home, which is nice.
Nice. And so in between tours, I know you said a while ago in other podcasts that you didn't have your own space at home, but do you have like a studio that you can go to where you kind of can practice and rehearse for, like drumming wise, or?
I don't know. So I have pads here. That's what I have. Yeah, I've just have some practice pads. I mean, it's strange really with that whole sort of side of things. When the band started kicking off, we would be on the road for 6 to 8 months of the year, sometimes 10 months, just non-stop. So you were just playing all the time. And so practicing didn't really exist. It was you were playing so much, and that was your practice, and that's how you honed, or we all honed our craft really. And I think as time went on, we all used to live in the same area, and we used to have a studio, and then we got older, people have families, and we moved further and further away from each other. So it's strange. We've just come back from recording a record, and so everything's been pretty cool. That's being mixed at the moment, so we're sort of, the playing is up at the moment,
Amazing. But so pad wise, what kind of stuff do you work on at home on the pad?
Just try and keep my eye on with just basic rudiments, really. Just keep everything there and supple. I mean, I think COVID was a big one for me because I have an electric kit here.
Right.
But what happened during COVID is where my electric kit is in the loft. My wife turned it into an office because she had to work from home. So we were battling each other for space and time for when it was time for me. Even though it's an electric kit, it's still, I don't know if I can curse, but it's still fucking annoying for people who aren't, who aren't drummers. It's just like endless tapping. And so I still have the practice kit upstairs. So every now and again, I can go up there. It's like a Roland V drum, like a TD something.
Okay.
Which is great. And so, yeah, I can jam out to tunes up there. But when I'm just down in front of the TV, I'll just have my pad out, I'll have a cup of coffee and bust out just a few rudiments just to, keep everything
cool
working. I think also the older you get, these tend to sort of slow down a bit. So you've got to keep them up a bit, haven't you?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, but are you like rudiment wise? Is it literally just like singles, doubles, paradiddles, or are you working out of any books or?
Pretty much nothing intense. Nothing intense. Just keeping everything there moving. Right. I should probably delve a bit further in, but we'll see how that goes.
Did you have a time in your life where because I know you studied, I saw somewhere you did some like extensive study on like rudiments and stuff. Were you working out of any books at that time, or was there any particular?
I used the Buddy Rich snare drum rudiment book from which was what my first drum teacher gave me, Steve Crossan, a guy that when I first started playing drums when I was about 11, he was like, this is the holy grail. He gave me 2 books. One was the Buddy Rich book, and one was the Carmen a PC book, which was what was the name of it? And I had them both because my mum bought them for me. And it was realistic rock. And
Right.
so
Okay.
you had all the Buddy Rich stuff for like the rudiments, and then you had the Carmine Appice stuff for, essentially the cornerstone of rock drumming. And so I'd work on those both books growing up and stuff, and that was great, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the stuff I would do early on would be just playing to music. You'd have your favorite music, and you would just play to, and I'd see that was the greatest progression of my playing,
Mm.
was when you'd be playing to your favorite songs and you'd be trying to work out what the drummer was doing, and you didn't know. And
Mm.
and it was before you could break down YouTube videos. It was just you were using your ear going, I think he does this. And one day you wouldn't do it. 2 weeks later, it was there. It was just in your hands just from playing and just constant listening. I think that was the most important thing for me, was just listening to music and trying to get into the vibe of whoever the drummer was.
Yeah. I guess that teaches you to play songs, and it teaches you to yeah, fit like it improves your feel rather than. I mean,
Yeah.
technique is cool, and obviously rudiments are great for working on the fingers, the wrist control, all that stuff. But I guess actually playing two songs, yeah, I guess teaches you song form and
Well,
music.
that was it. And I think when you started your own band, and like I was always in bands as a kid, it was like knowing song structures. It
Mm,
sort of came quite natural, if you know what I mean, because you've been playing and just engrossing yourself in the kind of music that you love. It's different. Everyone's got a different journey, but my journey was, it was definitely classic rock. My favorite bands were Queen, Zeppelin, Police, Guns N' Roses, all that kind of stuff. And then, metal came a bit later, when I don't think anyone was born listening to Napalm Death, if you know what I mean. You had to
yeah,
graduate. And
yeah,
so yeah, it just sort of evolved. But I was definitely always like a band guy, and wanting to play with others. That was why I picked up the drums. I wanted to play, and I enjoyed the hang as well. It was the
yeah.
camaraderie of you know everyone hanging out and having a good time. I've really bought into that, and I still do. I think that's why I love playing the drums and love being a musician and being in a band.
Yeah. And so I know that you've said that you didn't have like a plan B, like being a musician in a band, being like a rock star was like always your dream. And I know you were in a few bands before Skindred. Maybe talk about how, like, I don't know, your mindset at the time before coming to Skindred, or that kind of journey of how did you, I don't know, was it just a natural progression, if you know what I mean, or was it
Um, I mean, I really believed in the work ethic side of things of being in a band. The bands I were in, I started them with my friends and was always the sort of, you know, driving, I won't say driving force, but like, we're going to do this. And I always had ideas above my station. I just, I remember it being the sort of mid 90s where you were trying to make a mark being a rock band, and rock wasn't in the UK, being in a rock metal band wasn't that popular at the time with what was going on culturally with like Brit pop and Brit rock and dance music. Metal wasn't really something that was fashionable over here. You still had Kerrang and Metal Hammer, that's like the big magazines, and there would be Donington. And the last Donington Monsters of Rock was in '96, and then it stopped for years. And that just tells you how unfashionable heavy metal and rock music was at the time. But for me, it was going out there and playing as much as we could. And the way you did that was bringing up promoters, sending them letters, you know,
Right.
sending your demo out and, going up to London. I didn't live in London at the time. It was networking with people, hounding them, let my band play, let my band play. And,
Mm.
for us, I remember we would cut a demo CD, like a CDR back then. You'd do it on DAT or whatever, and then you'd copy your own CDs, write your name on it. And what we would do is we would go around all the news agents, which were like news kiosks, look at Kerrang and Metal Hammer. Hopefully they weren't shrink wrapped, and we would stick our demo in there with our
Uh,
next gig, and we would all split up and do that all over every town we were playing. And so
right.
all our shows were always packed out. It was great, and
Nice.
so it was just really this idea of, DIY working towards getting to the next level. And so when I joined Skindred, it was the next level. And I sort of tend to keep the same mindset as I did back then of you know, just keep working and keep pushing. I think, if you stop believing in what you're doing and believing in what you're potentially capable of, that's when it's all over, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
you've got to
yeah,
keep pushing. And I mean, it's probably quite naive at the time. Like I said, I didn't have a plan B. I still don't.
yeah.
So I mean, I was so laser focused on wanting to. I always say this. I never wanted to be the best drummer in the world. I wanted to be in the best band in the world,
Okay.
and that was my motivation because it became about the team and it became about everyone together. And I feel like when you're solely focused on yourself, yes, you achieve excellence in whatever you're doing. If it's athletics, kind of sport, whatever, you will achieve some sort of excellence. But I didn't want to be in this, and this is me personally. I didn't want to be a gun for hire. I wanted to be part of the team
Mm.
from the, and that, and everyone has their own personal journeys, and I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
definitely see the pros and the cons of both sides these days. But at the time, I was like, I'm in a band. That's what I do.
Right.
Do you
Yeah,
want me to drum on your song? Fuck you. I'm in this band.
yeah. Okay, yeah. But have you over the years like have you done any kind of session work along the way at any point or
Yeah, I've done bits and bobs now. Yeah, which is this is the thing. It comes naturally to you. In this, this is what I was saying earlier. It's like there are pros and cons to both things. If you can do both, then you're winning. But at the time, for me, it was just doing the band. I played on most recently Andy Taylor from Duran Duran's
nice.
record. I did that a few years ago, which was cool. Myself and the guitar player have sort of a side project from Skindred called King Sugar, which we've been working on for what seems like forever,
Right,
which
okay.
is just fun. I think now making music for fun as well as doing, your main job, your main gig is that's the thing that's really, really inspiring to me. Just and if people want me to play on stuff, of course I will if I can make it work. But
Mm.
my main focus is always going to be the band
Yeah,
and
yeah.
trying to make that the most, important thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, you're coming to like drum gear. You're literally living the dream because you're still with Zildjian, right? And Tama, is that correct?
I've been with
Yeah.
Tama now 20 plus years, Zildjian for a long time. Been with Vata, Evans. Yeah, I mean, I've been really
Right.
lucky with the gear.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Tama for me, it was it was Stuart Copeland that played Tama and Lars Ulrich and
Of
all
course. Yeah.
those guys back then. And we were on tour with Korn in America, and the old drummer David Silvera was a Tama guy. And at the time,
Yeah.
I had no gear. I was borrowing a friend's kit in America that he'd let me use, which was a Sona kit. It was his
Nice.
kit. It was like a little red Sona kit, one up, one down, really basic setup. He was like, "You can use this," and I used it for about 18 months in the States when we started.
Nice.
And we were on tour with Korn, and yeah, they introduced me to their Tama guy, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And it literally happened like that. One day, I wasn't with a company. The next day, it was like, "Yeah, we want you to play our drums." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" I mean, that's just like the best thing ever, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's the dream combo. Tama and Zildjian, like those two companies are
I know.
incredible. Yeah.
Well, there you go, chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. Absolutely. I was just gonna say. So what's the current? I'm intrigued. What's the current rig setup that you're working with and touring with?
So I have a Tama style walnut, which is
Nice.
lovely. I've got a 24-inch kick, 13 rack, 16, 18 floor, 20 gong.
Nice.
I use a 13-inch side snare, 13 by 5.5. And then I'm using it at the moment. I'm using an SLP black brass as my main snare,
Mm,
which is a 14 by 6.5. And
nice.
like they gave me the SLP a few years ago, and it was my backup because I've had a couple of main snares. I've had like I was using the Charlie Benante from Anthrax
Yeah.
snare, and I've had that since that came out, and that's been on every record Skindred have done since I've had it.
Nice. Amazing.
Engineers love it. It just sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the Starphonic. I mean, I had a Starphonic as well. So these three snares: the Starphonic, the SLP, and the Charlie Benante. And the SLP is just, I don't know, for some reason, it's got the number one spot now. And I've just used
Mm,
it on the last record. And when you do that thing when you record where the producer engineer goes, let's hear all your snares. And as soon as we did that one, it stayed, and I tuned it up and I tuned it down. It was, yeah, unbelievable actually.
Amazing. So
Yeah,
that SLP snare, yeah, goes through
low,
all the
medium,
tunings.
high.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice,
and
nice,
like the
nice.
producer who we were working with, Jay Ruston, it's a
Mhm.
Canadian guy, lives in LA. He flew over to the UK to do our record with us. He was going, all right, we want for this sound, we want a douche, and I was like, what the fuck's a douche? He goes, douche. And I
Ah,
went, oh, okay, like a big fat snare drum
yeah,
type thing.
yeah,
And so I got the SLP out. I just detuned it a little bit, a couple of moon gels, and I was like this.
yeah,
Sounds killer.
yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the SLP snares are so nice, man. I was torn a few years ago between an SLP and another Thomas snare. It was a Star Classic snare, but yeah, I got to say, like the SLPs are incredible. Such nice.
Really nice. And they feel great as well.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
really feel great.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
think with those I've always been a metal snare guy. I never
Right.
used wood snares for some reason. I don't know why I gravitated to that. I don't know if it's like metal, but like
Yeah.
I've always used metal snares.
Yeah. I guess in the band you're in, I guess it projects so
I guess
nice.
so, yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah,
that whole thing about, obviously there's a bit more warmth when you use a wood snare. And
yeah,
so I think that probably scared me off, if that makes sense, because of,
yeah,
you want that sort of, you want the bell brass, don't you? You want the
yeah.
shotgun. That's the kind of
Yeah,
music we're playing. And so that's the kind of the quest.
absolutely, absolutely. And symbol wise, what's the setup you got going?
I've got, okay, so I've got a bunch of cymbals.
Right.
I'm using, you can tell I'm thinking now because my eyes are going back to, I'm using 15-inch K light hats.
Beautiful.
Lovely. 22-inch K dark ride.
Nice.
And then I'm using all K crashes actually, which are 18, which is like a medium thin. And then I've got a 19 medium. And then I'm using a K Sweet 20-inch, which is really nice. I did have a paper thin, but I destroyed it, and it sounded amazing. It
Yeah.
sounded amazing, but I killed it, and I didn't crack it.
Uh,
It just sort of really bowed because it was
yeah.
in my right hand position where just above my like where I ride, so I really lay into it,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it sounded amazing. But I had to trade it back out for the Sweet, which is holding up a bit better.
Yeah, I
And
guess
then
when you beat the heck out of the paper thins, yeah, they depending on what was it, an 18,
it
19,
was a 20.
a 20, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, so I used like an 18, 19, 20,
okay.
22 ride, and then I've got a 21, like the K crash ride,
Beautiful.
which
So
is
good.
like, I love that. And that's like a, to my right there over there. And then I have the 20-inch, like China.
Nice.
But
Nice.
they've given me like an A custom one, which is a 19, which I haven't tried yet.
Okay.
So yeah, they gave me
Nice.
that for the studio, and I haven't tried that one yet. And I've got a 12 China to my left. I've
Nice.
got quite a few.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what's the longest that China has lasted for you?
Do you know what, actually? The first China they gave me lasted about 3, 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, and I remember commenting, someone asked me a similar question and then
Yeah.
it broke. So,
Well, I
so
hope I haven't jinxed it.
ah, the thing is, they do sound quite cool sometimes when they crack. I think I just like was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. It
True,
gives it an
yeah.
extra
Yeah.
bit an extra trash.
Yeah, yeah. True, true. That is a point. Yeah. And so in the studio, what's the because well, the question I have in my mind is obviously you guys have been going since like the 90s, I guess, right? And
Yeah, something like that. 1999,
so
2000.
so what's has the tracking process for you guys changed in any way? How has that changed?
It really depends on who you're working with, producer wise, because they seem to have their own way that they like to do things. And I think for us, we try and follow the lead of whoever we're working with because I think it keeps you on your toes. And obviously, if you do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results, right?
Hmm,
So it's best, we always call the producer the referee,
hmm,
and that, so the referee's in there and he's telling us, this is how I want to do it. And so on the last record, um, I'll be honest, it was the most pleasurable tracking experience I've ever had. He was so encouraging. I've worked with other producers where it's been more whip cracking in terms of like, you're off there. This is like really microscopic, going for this specific thing. And I think sometimes it's a bit like hazing, do it again. And I don't know, sometimes you lose sight of what you're trying to achieve with this. But
Mm.
with this last record, Jay, he was so encouraging during the tracking. So what would happen this time is myself, Mike, and Dan, guitarist and bass player, we would be in the room together, work on the parts. He'd be recording as we're working on stuff, and then once we've got the main track down, I would track to the click and like the ghost track, which is fairly standard. But I think the way we were doing it is because sometimes the songs were incomplete, as in
Yeah.
we'd be writing the track in the studio. He would just get me to just go and be like, "Look, well, let's just get you from start to finish." And I'd be like, "Well, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing yet." He goes, "Well, you'll just make it up, won't you?" That's your problem. You'll make it up. And I'm like, I respond well sometimes to that. And he was just very encouraging. And so for me, it was making every part have intent,
Right.
which I guess was what his. If you micro focused on what you're doing, sometimes you can lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think it's like you have to, playing for the song is the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what we're
yeah.
here to do. Is serve the song. As drummers in rock bands, song based things. That's what we're here to do. And so I'm part of the supporting cast. And
Yeah.
so if my job becomes, we can't do anything until we've got the drum track. So just hurry up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it has changed, so it does depend on who you're working with. And like I say, I can't give any more credit to Jay. He was brilliant in terms of the encouragement and making you feel you were onto something. And when you weren't, he was direct. You knew, but
Mm.
it was good. He was a great guy to work with. So
Nice. Nice. And has like writing parts in the studio, is that more or less instinctive thing for you? Like you just go off what you feel, or have you ever written anything around maybe, I don't know, a rudimental based part or like
you
something
know
that
what? When I try to do that,
uh,
when I come in with, "Hey guys, check this out," it never happens.
ah
It's always you can get it. You express yourself in the groove. I think for me anyway, and so for me, I go with what's going on around me. Anytime I bring in some fucking cool lick, it's usually like that's really cool, but that's it. eh, Where's it go? Where's it going? You know.
right.
It's. I guess it's the kind of music we play. I mean, because it's like a hybrid style of like reggae, rock, ragga, drum and bass, hip hop, metal. There's so much that the groove can do and say. So I try and say it through that really. With the dance oriented, the whole idea is with us, you want people moving their bodies up and down, jumping, clapping, and singing the words. So
Mm,
I have to facilitate that, which is well, what I love to do, to be honest.
yeah.
I've always thought, in modern rock, and he's not even modern. It's like Brad Wilk is my spirit animal.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
I just think I've listened to that and I'm like, oh my God, this is just perfect. Just
Yeah.
love it.
It's
You
yeah,
know?
he was one of those guys, like he never overplayed. I mean, still, he's still alive. He never overplays, period. Like
Yes.
he's yeah, he was one of my big influences as a kid as well.
Wicked. So
Um
yeah, I just think it's just, you listen to those songs and you watch it live and you're like,
yeah,
the power with how he played and the groove with how he plays. Yeah.
yeah,
He does his job,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that's the thing I try and sort of go, if everyone is around me going, yes, then you're in. It's quids
Nice.
in. And you see
Nice.
people jumping at a festival, moving, you're like, I'm doing that bit. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so I guess yeah, there's never been a Steve Gadd 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover moment for
Yeah,
you
maybe
where
not.
anybody's like, "Oh, what is that drum thing? Let's write a song around that." I guess it's more like feel you
Yeah,
just
you come into a groove, you'd listen to a groove, and then we base things around a groove rather than you know a feel, a small feel of like that, Not to be, never say never.
Yeah.
Maybe it will work one day, you know.
Yeah.
I'll come in with something cool. Maybe just what I'm coming with is just shit. You know what I mean? Maybe what I'm bringing is just not good, and it's a polite way of saying it. Who knows?
Uh, I
Yeah,
mean, somehow I doubt that, but yeah, maybe it's just not right. Maybe it's just not right for the song. But
exactly. I'll,
yeah.
I'll go with that one.
But so Arya, when you're playing like on your time off, you're playing on your e kit. What kind of stuff do you like to play to? Is it still like very much the rock based stuff that you maybe used to play to, like the Roger Taylor stuff and the I think you what else were you into? Appetite for Destruction
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean
or
that's like your comfort blanket, isn't it? That's like
right?
I want to just play and have some fun. I
Yeah,
think sometimes now you play to like modern pop music, you play along to what's on the radio, and
right. Okay.
just jam along and just see what happens. You just put your earbuds in, listen to the radio, and just be like, oh, okay. There might be a Dua Lipa song that comes up, and you're playing along to it. I think I'm pretty open with that kind of thing. There's
Yeah.
nothing I'm super hyper focused on. I tend not I wouldn't drum along to rock music, really, modern rock music. I don't think
Okay.
that's not where I'm at or where I'm happy. I'd rather, stick on an old Dre record and play along to that. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Nice. Very
yeah,
nice.
just that kind of thing, and just sort of, I think these days you're so the idea of drum loops are so accessible, you know. And I feel that I'd go onto Splice and I'd hear like a cool loop, and I'd be like, oh, I might play that. That's
Mm,
how some of the things have been written for the record. If honestly, you'd be
okay.
listening to like samples and stuff, and like you'd be going, okay, that's a cool groove. Let's do something with that. And I
Yeah,
find that's
yeah.
quite inspiring because it's taken out of context as well. Because if you hear it in isolation, you don't know how it's going to sound when you put it, with what we do or what. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I obviously you mentioned samples. You guys obviously have samples in your music.
Yes.
When you're playing live, I assume are you running the tracks or is somebody do you have like a
Okay,
guy for
so
that?
we run Ableton Live,
Yeah.
and that's in our monitor world. And so the session will start, but I control where the next song starts, and we have loop points in the songs which I control.
Right. Okay.
So when Benji, our singer, is going off on one,
Yeah.
we'll hit a loop point, and so the click will just cycle until I
Right.
bring it back in, and then the track will kick back in. So I've got two pads on next to me where I can control that, which are
Ah,
basically start and stop pads. And the start pad acts as like a loop pad as well.
okay. Nice, nice. And so does that mean are you guys on click for the whole gig or is there parts where you're off the click?
So I'm on click for the whole gig. The other guys, do they have click? I don't know if they. I mean, they never used to because they never used to use in ears. So they've just started using it. The other guys have just started using in ears. So I don't know what mixes they have, but the whole
Right.
set is to click. Apart
Okay.
from a couple of moments where we freeform in the middle of songs, where
Okay.
the track stops and then I bring it back in again.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So if you imagine it's just one long session, the set is one long session, and then you jump to each marker point, which is what I'm jumping to.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you, I mean, obviously you have a drum tech, but do you have any like particular tuning preference that you say to your drum tech, give me this note, or I want it to sound like this, or are you quite hands-on with the tuning process?
I'm like it, I've got a few techs, because
Ah, okay.
it's yeah, like over the years, just like people come in and come and leave, and so I'd usually listen to who's coming in and go, what's your? I want everyone to be happy. Some guys that I've worked with love it wide open, no dampening on anything, and I'm like, if you can make it sound great like that, I'm
Mm,
in. It's when it's like open and it's a bit ringy too. I don't like it to be too ringy. I like to have there to be a bit of control. I like to have be like a controlled thud. I want the
right.
drums to sing, but also the snare for me, it's more about how it feels in the hand a lot of the
Right.
time, because I love the sound of it cranked like we were talking about, like that crack like shotgun blast.
Mm,
But I found after an hour and a half, my hand hurts
Right.
because it's it's so the tension is so high on that snare. It's so cranked, and so you're cracking it when you're sort of ghosting. I feel like I don't know. I like there to be a bit of give in the head. So there's so it's just you feel like you're at one with the drummer. You're not battling it.
Right.
I
Okay.
think that has to be a personal preference thing because I feel like if I'm playing quietly, I don't have that problem. But if I'm playing live in this performance element, I
Yeah.
feel like if I'm bringing my left hand down all the way from the top there, cracking the shotgun blast, I'm going crack, ow, crack, ow. So it
Right.
needs to be a little bit, there needs to be a bit of give in there. I want it to be responsive, but also, you know, it to be articulate, the sound. I want it to be so it's getting that balance really.
Right. So I guess as long as the you're not necessarily looking at like a note or it's
No,
more if the drum, as long as the tech tunes it
and
with
also every room is different and every festival is different. Every because
right.
it's an acoustic instrument, you're battling. Sometimes you're going to be in a low ceiling club, sometimes you're in a high ceiling club, sometimes, and so every show you're having to. I mean, the snare's the one thing I think that it's up for debate each gig. You know what I mean? It can. I'm like, you just have to play with the room and play with where you are just to get that right balance. It
Right.
doesn't take long. It's not like it's not. I don't think you obsess over it, but it's like,
Right.
hmm, that sounds that feels and sounds like it didn't sound like yesterday. That's because we're in a different room. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
just play to the room and see where we're at.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And
Yeah.
I know that you you like to do like yoga and stretch and stuff before gigs.
Not so much yoga, but I like a
Okay.
good old stretch. Yeah, I like a
Okay.
good old
Okay.
stretch. My wife's into the yoga. She does that every morning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and she does it with our cats, cat yoga.
Oh, that's very
No,
interesting.
well, what happens is she does her yoga and the two cats come in and fuss around her while she does it every morning. So
Oh,
we
right.
call
Okay.
we call it cat yoga.
Oh, you call it cat. I thought that was like a specific
No,
kind of yoga
no.
technique to do with I don't know cats or moving like cats or
I
yeah.
like a good old stretch.
Okay.
Just these days, I say these days, but just trying to. It's something I didn't think about when I was younger, and now I have to think about it.
Yeah.
That's the best way to look at it, and just mainly my legs and my hips actually. That's mainly my for me is getting my hips in a nice position before we play and getting them a bit more supple.
Right.
Arms I'm okay with because we're ready to go, but it's just my hips. And like
Right.
I think that's a personal thing. It's been you're sitting, playing. It's been like that forever. I've been playing now for over 30 years, and I feel like my hips sometimes just need a little you know, bit of
Yeah.
love.
Yeah. So what does that look like? The kind of stretching routine for you?
I mean, I could show you, but I think I don't know if I could do it on here.
Mm.
Um, I would lie on the floor, bring back my legs, basically trying to do my glutes, really stretch out my glutes, my quads, the big muscle groups around my hips, you know.
Right.
So it's I think it's like trying to release the hip flexors, and so I'd go on one knee, stretch out. Do you understand what I mean? Or
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
I could give a
Yeah.
demonstration, but I think
No, no,
I don't think your
no,
viewers
no,
or your
no,
listeners want to hear me groaning and go,
no,
oh,
no need. But no,
yeah.
I understand. I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
hip flexors. I mean, I used to do a lot of sport when I was a kid, so I was always used to doing stretching. I never applied it to drumming, if I'm honest. You
yeah,
know, and just
yeah.
nowadays, that's something like I said, I have to think about.
Right, right, right. And so then like on the road before gigs, do you are you doing like a warm up routine on the practice pad with the rudiments, or how are you kind of warming up the hands, getting ready to
Um,
beat the heck out of the
in all
drum?
honesty, I don't do any of that before a play.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, don't do any of that. Just literally do a few stretches. It used to be have a couple of beers. Now I'm not drinking before the shows,
Right.
just out of choice.
Yeah.
But that for me, it was always like, we played so much, as I was saying, I'd be playing all the time, so you're in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time when you're sound checking during the day, if it's your own show, you've played for 45 minutes, sometimes an hour already. So your body and your mind are ready. So it's just literally just trying to be relaxed, I think, is the main thing for me, rather
Yeah.
than tensing yourself up. Drink loads of water before the gig. That's the main one, especially
Mm.
now in the summer when it's like we're doing the festivals. But I think being relaxed in your mind before you go on is the one that for me works the best. And when
Right.
we have guests and stuff at the shows, that's when I sort of take myself off. I'm not very good before a show with having loads of, guests and friends and family around before a show. I'm like, afterwards, you got me. But before, I just sort of need to be. And the other guys are really good at that. I'm not very good at that. The other guys are quite good. I'm like, if it's all going on, I take myself away just to try and get into the mode of, about to go on and hopefully rock some minds, you
Right.
know?
Right. Do you find yourself getting quite nervous before gigs? Is that a thing, or
Um,
do you not really get nervous anymore?
no, I don't get nervous. Big, big moments, yes, definitely. And
Okay.
I wouldn't call it nervous. I would just call it like butterflied excitement.
Right.
Like when we headlined Wembley last year, it was the first time we did that, and I was just really excited, and I just wanted it all to go really well. And so
Mm.
you're just like, like that kind of, you're
Right.
just like, oh, is the confetti going to go off at the right time? And you start thinking about everyone else's jobs, not your own.
Right.
Is he going to remember his cue there? Is he going to do that? Is he? And you're like, it's just the same. Nothing's changed. It's
Yeah.
just the biggest show of your life.
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
think that's the thing. So I think when we do things like, TV and all that kind of stuff, I just always go, well, they booked us, they like what we do, so we just have to do what we do,
Yeah.
and I believe in what we do, so let's just go.
Yeah.
I think your overthinking is probably the worst thing for any musician to do. Just
Tell me
overthink.
about it. Yeah.
It's like because everyone's your own worst critic.
Yeah.
Everyone has imposter syndrome. But if you let that get the better of you, then you're never going to enjoy what you're doing in the moment. That's the
Mm.
main thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or try to. And we all have that in common. So
Yeah. So
it's just trying to.
do you still have that, like the imposter syndrome?
Oh, of course. I think
That's
we all
still a
do.
thing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I just try not to. There's less of me that has that, if that makes sense. The
Yeah. Okay.
bigger, the bigger part is like, well, we're all in it together. I don't know anyone that doesn't feel that way. So that's the
Right.
comfort. And so you put it to your side and go, we're all just trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're all drummers, guitar players, bass players, singers. We're all the same. We're all just trying to, our level, making a living from doing what we love. And there's going to be people who are better at things than me, and I'm going to be better than people at other things. And it's not really a competition. So let's not
Mm.
look at it like that. And I think that would be my one main critique about sort of internet style, playing at the moment. Everyone is so hyper focused on 30 seconds of watching someone shred on any instrument. It becomes hyper focused on like, oh my God, I can't do that. Why can't I
Mm.
do that? And it's like, well, that guy probably can't do what you can do. So whatever. Don't worry about it. If that's what you want to do,
Yeah.
then go and do it. But don't make it be the reason for you to give up and stay in your room because you're never going to get there. It should be
Mm.
about working towards what's right for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think somebody said to me once, like I think it was, do you know Lena Anderberg? She plays for Zara Larsson.
Oh no, I don't know.
Great
Uh,
drummer. I think it was her who said that, because she was watching a Nate Smith video years ago,
oh
and
yeah, he's
obviously Nate
great, isn't
Smith is freaking unbelievable, like out of
he?
this
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
And she said that, she kind of realized, well, I'm never going to. Obviously, he's amazing, and I'm in awe of the skill, but I'm never going to sound like Nate Smith because I didn't grow up in the same, in the same environment as him, and going to church or whatever journey
yeah.
he had that led him to being where he is and having the musicality and feel and chops and technique that he has. So it's like, if you grew up in a completely different environment to somebody, you're never going to, well, you're never going to sound like anybody else
Oh,
anyway. Everybody
well,
has
that's
their own
it.
thing, but yeah.
That's completely it. And I also think that's what I love about drumming
Hmm.
is that you can have the same part, the
Mm.
same basic beat, and we will all play that completely differently.
Yeah.
Everyone on the planet will play it different, like just that. There's that tiny little difference, but it's your interpretation of that, and I think that's what makes everyone special, and that's what some people get the call to do for their thing that they bring. It's like we want the thing that you do. That's not saying
Mhm.
that what you do, the other person is just different.
Yeah,
y- You know,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that there's value in all of it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But do you because you mentioned the kind of online social media like chop shredding thing, do you find yourself like sometimes watching those videos
All the
and
time,
yeah.
all the time. When I'm going to sleep at night, I'll be lying next to my wife, and I'll get like a little, you know, pack it in. I don't want to listen to just, you know. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, of course I watch it. It's fun, isn't it?
yeah.
But
True,
it's
true, true, yeah.
it's fun. But yeah, for me, it's not what I'm not watching it going, oh God, oh God, oh God, waking up in the morning, I can't do it anymore. I'm watching it going the same way I'd watch a Hollywood blockbuster.
Okay,
I'm like,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah,
You've entertained me,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you
Who
know?
who who are some I'm intrigued. Who are some like modern day kind of social media chops players that
Oh,
you
I mean,
watch to
who's the
inspire
one-handed
you?
guy who plays with like one
Oh,
hand and smokes a cigarette?
Estepario Siberiano?
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah, that
amazing,
guy.
amazing. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
what's he doing?
yeah. It's absolutely out of this world. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I tell you what, I do love the Drumeo series. I think that's brilliant.
Oh,
When
the playing
when
it for the first time
yeah, I think
thing.
that's
Yeah, yeah,
great. I think that's really fun.
yeah.
There's so many, dude. I mean, what's the guy? He used to play in Suicidal Tendencies.
Eric Moore?
Eric Moore. Thank you very
Oh
much.
my gosh, man.
Yeah, Eric Moore.
Oh my gosh.
He was
Otherworldly.
like, but he really annoyed me actually. I'll tell you a quick story. We were
Uh-huh.
playing a festival with Suicidal Tendencies, and they were going on after us. So we're on this big stage in Czech Republic, and you know how like when you play a festival, the kits are set up like backstage, like and when the other band's playing, you tend not to go and rip on the drums, do you?
Yeah, yeah, of
So
course.
anyway, Eric Moore has his kit set up on the side of the stage, like right like there, because because they're next on, and he's sitting on his kit. We're playing, and he's just shredding, like playing along, but just like just shredding. And my drum techs had to go, look, and you just like, because it's so off-putting.
No,
Yeah, this is years ago.
that's
This is years ago.
insane.
Yeah, and he's there just shredding away. He's not like being a dick. He's just like having the best time ever. Just like
Yeah.
my drum tech's like, can you just like, because you can see me going, I've got the click in my ears, and like I'm playing along, and I can sort of like see him going for it, and I can hear him, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just throwing me off. It's so
No.
weird. Yeah, I
Oh
never met
man.
him because by the time we'd finished, he's left, and then he came back on stage and played. But yeah, he's amazing.
Oh dude, yeah, he is amazing. Yeah. But I mean, he seems like a cool guy. Like he probably was, yeah, as you said, probably doing it more because he was like inspired by what was going on and watching.
I would love to meet him and go, do you remember that at all? He's
But
probably
yeah,
like, no,
the audacity to just like while you guys
just
are playing to just
shredding.
go that is
Just
crazy.
shredding. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh.
That's fun.
Yeah, yeah. But do you ever kind of have you ever dabbled in the kind of gospel chop thing just for fun at home? Is that
Yeah,
something
every
you?
now and again. Yeah. I'd see something online and I'd be like, right, I'll see if I can have a little crack at that. And, you get your little licks together, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? I feel like, if you're at a party and someone picks up an acoustic guitar and everyone goes, oh God, it's the guy with the acoustic guitar. What's going to happen now? If it's the guy with the electric guitar, like doing an Eddie Van Halen, everyone's like, "Oh my God!"
yeah.
I feel like drumming's going that way now. So you need a few little special chops for when it's that time when people are looking at
Yeah,
you. I'm talking about Brad Wilk. They don't want to hear me just grooving. They want to hear some whatever it is. You know,
yeah.
that's just the way of the world.
Unfortunately, people don't appreciate Phil Rudd enough. People don't
Oh
appreciate
my God.
Ringo enough. Yeah.
I mean, that's the wider thing. I think general public are like who aren't musicians and who are listeners. It's like that stuff is impressive.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
impressive,
of
but it's
course,
not.
of course.
What do they say? It doesn't you don't get paid. It doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, yeah. It's not,
That's what I love about all of those chop drummer guys. they're all in like pot backs and they have to hold it down. And every now and again, you'll hear this blistering fill come out of nowhere back to the pocket. It's like,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like, that little fill happens like, once every 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also what I loved watching the Aaron Spears videos back in the day. Because
Oh, yeah, of
he
course.
was one of those guys who just, man, like when he just played the pocket for like Ariana Grande or the big artists, as you say, it just playing the 4/4 thing, and you're like, oh, it's
They make it
so
sound
sweet.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And they make the drums sound great.
yeah.
And that's the
Absolutely.
thing. It's like, like we were talking about earlier, I could get on any of those guys' kits and it not sound like them or
Right.
me, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
It just, yeah, it's interesting.
yeah.
That's that I think that's the heartbeat that we all bring as players.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Arya, I think we're coming to the end of this episode now. Um,
Awesome.
but is there anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming up that you want to shout out?
Just, as always, thank you to the people that, like our band, Skindred, and if you see us playing, come down and rock with us. And yeah, we appreciate all the support, and that's it. And thank you for listening and watching, and yeah, thank you for having me.
Man, Arya, appreciate you taking the time, man. Thank you so much.
No worries, dude. Yeah, next time we're in Germany, come to a show.
Oh, I would love to. I would absolutely. It would be a dream to see you throw down, man.
Wicked.
Amazing. Thank you, Arya.
Give me money.